Sit back, relax, and enjoy.
What's up, people, and welcome back to another episode of the Reasons Podcast. Today, things will probably look different for those of you who have video. Things are going to look different from the last time I was here. The camera's in a new spot. It's better, right? It's straight on. It's not like, because last week I had it down there on my laptop, and that was pretty bad, okay? Like, the angle was bad. I just wasn't really messing with it. This does mean though that you can see my bedroom and like all of the nonsense that's going on, but I haven't really since I've been back at uni, I've not really like put my room together the way I want it. I've kind of just made it functionable. And another thing is my glasses are probably going to annoy you at times because the blue light blocking nonsense is going to like flash up, but hey, look, I need to be able to see the screen. So, yeah. Those are the differences. As you can tell, I'm tweaking a bunch of stuff as I keep making videos, keep writing articles. I'm just tweaking a bunch of stuff. So, yeah, that's essentially why things are going to look different. But today, I'm actually in fantastic spirits. I'm feeling so good because it feels like every day I wake up, like I'm happier and happier, more grateful because I'm realizing now that I basically get to just wake up, watch sports, write about sports, talk about sports, engage with other people talking about sports. And this is kind of like my life now. Obviously, I'm not making like tons of money I'm not making any money from doing this at the moment, but it's still fun. Like I still work like a few times a week and like I make enough money that I can kind of sustain myself even though I'm living at home. So that's the thing for the future, like when I'm going to get the hell out of here. But for the time being, like I'm really enjoying the fact that yesterday, like I woke up really early, like 7 o'clock, went to work all day, got home literally as the Liverpool United game kicked off, analyzed the game in my notes, watched it back this morning, wrote some stuff, made a couple of TikToks and reels or whatever, and now I'm here recording the podcast about it. And I have so much to talk about with this game because I really enjoyed it. Like we lost. Okay, for people that are new, somehow maybe some people are still new coming to this podcast. I'm a Liverpool fan, and we lost 2-1 at home. That's not happened in the Premier League in probably like 5 years. I think it's like 9 attempts in their last 9 games at Anfield. They haven't won in the Premier League. Maybe it's 14. I don't know. I wrote it in my article somewhere. But we lost the game, and I actually really enjoyed it. Like I had a really good time watching the game. But that's because, well, get the camera to stop shaking. That's because I'm a football purist. Like I just love football. I just love tactics and strategy. Like I'm a weirdo in that sense. I really enjoy it. And the last podcast with Lems, I don't even know if it's kind of coming to me now that like maybe I should have. I don't know if you watched the game, so like, I didn't know if I should jump on here with him. But I was like, I have too much to say. So Lems, let's do the next game, bro. Let's do the next game. But in the last podcast with him, I spoke about some things in the Chelsea game where like I was like, bro, Liverpool, we're pretty bad in these certain areas, and I just had so much fun watching those things not be problems. Like Liverpool played really well. Like of all of the games this season, that was one of the better performances. Even though we lost, I know that doesn't make sense. Like we lost the game, but we actually played better than some of the games that we won. So I'm happy because I got to enjoy watching the game. I got to enjoy watching my team actually play relatively well. And it's a good sign for the future because it means we can build on these performances. But I've seen a lot of like discourse and a lot of just stuff that people have been saying about the Liverpool game. And like guys are actually panicking. Like they're very, very nervous. They're very dejected. And I don't know if I'm the only Liverpool fan in the whole world that's not mad with that result. And I think it's probably because I'm such a purist about football. Like, I often don't care about results if the performance was good, especially at the beginning of the season. Later on in the season, let's say we're in the title race and we lose this game, I'm kind of mad because at that point in the season, all that matters is the result. And the same with like cup games. Cup games, is like I don't care. Like we beat Southampton 2-1. I don't care that the performance was bad because in the cup game you just have to win. But this is the league. This is game week 8. I think this was the 8th game of the season with a bunch of new players. And I was just like, I just need to see that they could be good. You know, I don't need to see them firing on all cylinders yet. Like we have 4, 5, 6 years for that to happen. Okay, these guys are going to be here for a while. I just need to see if it's possible. I just need to see the fundamentals, like the basic things about Liverpool Football Club. I just need to see them back. And they were back. Like realistically, we had more than enough chances to win the game. And I'm gonna pull up some stuff for those of you who are watching the video, like the video version of the podcast, because there are definitely some things that were that I highlighted that were like, damn, that's really good. That could have been better, like those kinds of things. But what I will do is I'm gonna make like a concerted effort to explain what's on the screen because I realized in the last podcast I didn't really like once I started sharing the screen and putting stuff on the screen, I low-key just assumed that everybody could see it, which is kind of botty because there were obviously some people who were just listening. So I'm gonna do a better job of that. But what I will say before I even get into any of that is that I'm proud of the performance, is that I'm actually relatively like okay, put it this way. Now I'm excited to watch the next match, if that makes sense. Last time, I was happy that there was an international break, right? After Palace, I was like, bro, I don't really want to watch anymore. After Galatasaray, I didn't even get to watch most of it. I was kind of happy I didn't get to watch most of it because I was like, bro, these guys stink. After Chelsea, I was like, wait, like, are we about to, like, I said in one of my videos, I was like, bro, we might finish fifth place at this rate, maybe less. But now I'm excited to watch the next game. Like against Brentford, I'm excited to see because that game easily could have ended like 4-1. Like we really could have won the game by so many more goals. Like we definitely created enough chances to win. And I'm just gonna quickly pull up the I'm gonna pull up the screen share of the stats. Oh hell no. Well, okay, whatever. When I can't, like, if I figure it out, I'm gonna pull up the screen share of the stats because in the Chelsea game, there were some stats I was like, bro, this doesn't make any sense. Like, there's no chance that we created, because it said that we created 2 expected goals against Chelsea, and I simply didn't agree. It was like we created 2 XG and Chelsea created 1 XG, and I was like, I want to know where XG comes from because this game wasn't that. We didn't create twice as many chances as Chelsea in that game. But this time, and now I finally got it, this time I actually agree with these XG numbers. If you see right here, it says Liverpool 2.5 XG, 2.75 XG, sorry, and Man United 1.34. That feels fair. Like these momentum graphs, like this graph right here, momentum, feels fair. Like we were in the ascendancy for what's this? 20 minutes straight, then they had a little period, then we had another 5, 10 minutes, then half time. Out of half time, 10 minutes. They had a couple minutes. You see what I'm saying? Like this stuff made sense. Like there was no point in the game where I was like, okay, we're gonna lose. And that's what I've been missing. That's what we've been missing as Liverpool this entire season is we haven't had a single game where it's felt like we were actually going to win. Does that sound crazy? Because we've played what 11 games now, maybe. Yeah, 11 games I think, and we've won 7 of them. In all 7 wins, I didn't know if we were gonna win. Whereas this game, I was certain we weren't gonna lose. When Maguire scored that goal, 84th minute, I was actually shocked. It's like, damn, what the hell? So obviously now that I'm talking about the stats, it's a good point to get into the statistics and the strategy and whatnot. And if you recall from the last podcast episode, I spoke about this little 4-4-2 press that we were doing that was zonal and it was really bad. Slot changed something. He changed something, and I'm gonna pull up. I have a bunch of clips right here. I'm gonna pull up, and I don't know how much trouble I can get in for like showing these clips, but at this point, I'm not really bothered. But this point of the game really intrigued me, right? Because it showed a really big difference in how Slot wanted to press. In the last game, he used a lot of zonal pressing. So where Salah is right here, he wouldn't be there. He'd be maybe 3, 4, 5 yards off. Isak would be like we were like plugging gaps. Instead of defending players, we were defending space. And against some teams, that's really, really good because they make bad decisions. So If Salah's in this space right here and Luke Shaw makes a poor decision to go and play the ball over here, Salah can maybe intercept so we can go press. The same with Isak. If he's in between these two centre backs, allowing them to have the ball, they might make a poor decision to maybe dribble into this space that he's kind of allowing or trying to pass into. I think this is Bruno. No, this is Mason Mount right here. And Bradley can get up here, or Gravenberch can be in this space. And it was almost like we were trying to bait them into mistakes. Not today. Yesterday, he said, forget all of that. Let's just go man to man. And this is what we saw. Szoboszlai on a centre back, Isak on a centre back. Salah essentially just man-marked Luke Shaw the entire game, which was interesting because he was actually involved in the pressing. So the poor pressing that we saw from him in the last game wasn't really that big of a factor here because he actually had an assignment. It was Luke Shaw the entire game. And it meant that if I pull up this little tactics board right here, it meant that we essentially, so obviously you can't press man to man. That's one thing about man to man pressing, is that you can't press every single player man to man because it means that if someone moves somewhere, then you're in trouble. So what we would do is, or what you have to do when you're pressing man to man essentially, is you have to kind of leave somebody as an outball. And we decided that those outballs were going to be the wing backs, or at least one of the wing backs. So what would happen is, for those of you who can't see, when Matthijs de Ligt, who was their right centre back, had the ball, we would almost press man to man on everybody on that side of the pitch. Kerkez would move up a little bit, Van Dijk would slide over, and everybody would kind of slide. So then it meant that your outball is Diogo Dalot, right? Because he's all the way on the other side of the pitch. It was... Okay, let me explain. The reason that you'd leave Dalot as this outball right here is because by the time De Ligt can play all the way across the pitch, every player has time to shuffle. I guess Gravenberch wouldn't go, but every player has time to shuffle across, right? Because it's such a long ball. So what we would do is we'd leave the outball as one of these wing backs, and it worked really well. And that's why United had, I mean, where's the stats, bro? They had 36% possession because they couldn't actually maintain possession for extended period of time because the man-to-man was actually quite good. And this outball was difficult to play. Like, United don't really have ball-playing centre-backs in the sense that they can really break presses. Like, De Ligt is hardly ever going to play a pass like this all the way over to Dalot. And the same for Luke Shaw. He's hardly ever going to play this pass over to Amad Diallo. So the pressing in this game was really, really good. And it's why we had 3.75 XG or 2.75 XG is because we continuously got the ball back high up the pitch. So that was really good. And that's part of the reason why I was so impressed, why I was so happy to watch this game, is because a lot of the things that I was frustrated about in the previous game and in the previous games, just all of them, were fixed. Maybe not fixed, but improved, right? The pressing was a real big point of concern for me as a Liverpool fan in the previous games. And in this game, the pressing was really, really good. There were hardly any times where we were just getting played straight through in a way that was like, damn, the pressing is really bad. Whenever they broke the press was a long ball, they won the second ball, or a pass that was actually just really impressive. And I have one of about Ahmad, right? Because obviously we're leaving Ahmad as this outball, and this shows exactly why, or exactly how they would beat the press sometimes. So Bruno, oh no, this is Cunha right here. He's dropped in, has the ball, and because we're essentially marking zonally on the backside, as I said, we have this man-to-man kind of thing going on. You see Salah's over here with Luke Shaw. I believe this is Bradley. I don't know who that. I think it's Mason Mount. But anyway, like on the strong side of the play, where the ball is, the strong side being where the ball is. And I just realized that you actually can't see what I'm talking about. On the strong side, every player is man marked, right? You have Szoboszlai over here, we have Bradley, Gravenberch, and then on the backside we're playing zonally. Like these guys aren't man marking anybody. So what Bruno or what Cunha does with the ball here is he plays the ball over into this space, and that's how they would beat the press. Last week, what would happen is Casemiro would have the ball here and like you just play the ball straight through to Cunha because there wasn't any on-ball pressure. But as you can see, like everybody's close to somebody. Like Salah's close to somebody, Soboslai's close to somebody, Bradley's close to somebody, McAllister is too. The only area where there's space is in these zones behind players, right? So that was one thing that I was really impressed with was that the problem with the press was not nullified because again, like they were able to play out of it, but the way that they were able to play out of it was much more difficult, and they actually had to be good to do that. Like that ball from Cunha is kind of difficult. Like he could easily overcook it, undercook it, and we're countering. So there was a lot that was a lot better in terms of the pressing. So it tells me that Slot has made some changes, and the thing is, it might just be because Man United play in a different system because obviously when you press in like a 4-4-2 kind of sense against the team that's playing four at the back, it's completely different, and maybe you do have to zonally mark. But against three at the back, I guess it's a little bit easier. But regardless, we did a much better job of pressing Manchester United than we did against basically anybody else that we've played. Now, one thing that I did get from the game, and I guess I'm trying to be more, what's the word? More well-rounded in my analysis because last week I had a lot to say about Liverpool, but not much to say about Manchester United. Oh, not much to say about Chelsea, I guess. There were some things about Man United that I picked up on that were like, bro, these guys might actually be as bad as people say they are. And one thing that I wrote before the game was that the 3-4-3 formation has some real problems. Like real problems, right? And if I pull this up right here, this was something that I realized about Manchester United a lot last season is that there seemed to be a really big disconnect between just each aspect of their team. And yeah, there is not some names on some players, but it doesn't matter, right? The point still stands. Man United play essentially a 3-4-3, and I think that it's like the most fake 3-4-3 I've ever seen because they don't act as three units. They almost act as like four different. It's so weird, right? There's the back three, there's the midfield two, there's the wing backs, then there's the forwards. So it's because of how formations are set out, like you just say them in the banks that they're in, three and then four midfielders and then three up front. But it's almost like three at the back, then two midfielders, then two wing backs and three forwards. So what would happen often, and this is something that they've carried over from last year, is there was this one play where Lamens has the ball, he passes to De Ligt, who then passes to Casemiro. But because of the discombobulation and the disconnection of the system or the players that they have on the pitch, he doesn't have anybody to pass to. So when the ball actually is played into his feet, Kirkez is like over. He's maybe 5 yards away from Ahmad, and this is his only out ball, right? Bruno, as his midfield partner, is playing 5 to 10 yards further up the pitch than he is. As I said just a couple minutes ago, all of the Liverpool players aren't zonally marking like they were against Chelsea. They're pressing man to man, so there is no out ball for Casemiro other than to play forward. But he can see that Kirkez is closing in on Ahmad at a rate of knots. Like he can't play this pass into Ahmad's feet, and he simply just kicks it into the channel and it goes out of play. And this is the clip right here, or this is the position that Casemiro is in. Right here, De Ligt has the ball. He plays into Casemiro's feet, but Kirkez is closing Ahmad at a rate of knots. He can't pass the ball in here, and he just plays it out of play. And the problem here is not with United's system. It's not with. Well, I guess it is partly to do with the system and maybe the instructions Amarim's given them. But when Casemiro receives the ball right here, Bruno Fernandes is quite literally 20 yards further up the pitch. There is nobody to pass to here for Casemiro. And this is sometimes, I guess, why stats are deceiving, because this will go down as an incomplete pass from Casemiro. But what do you want him to do? Isak is playing between two. He can't pass the ball back to the goalkeeper. He can't pass to Maguire. He can't pass to Luke Shaw, and even if he decided that he wanted to, his body position is the complete wrong way. He can't turn around and play here. He can't pass to Ahmad without like putting him in hospital. I guess his only out is to either get rid of it like he does, which is the safest thing to do, probably the right decision here, or maybe drop it into this space, maybe 5 yards off for Ahmad to maybe do something else with it. But at that point, like, you've already messed up, right? As a midfield, you've already messed up. The midfield is supposed to circulate the ball, it's supposed to retain possession, it's supposed to win the ball back. But if Casemiro loses the ball right here, I can already see 5 Liverpool players, and there are only 4 United players really anywhere near close to the goal. So this is what I mean about their 3-4-3 is that it doesn't work in the way that you would think on paper. And that's why guys think that United are not like quote unquote haram ballers, where because they only have 3 defenders, they're always trying to attack, they're trying to attack, they're trying to play good football. But not really. Like, this here is essentially what we saw all game. Long balls, trying to win seconds, and then trying to link up when we win the ball high up the pitch. That's not good football, right? It might be efficient and effective because you might win the ball high up the pitch a lot. But what people think United are trying to be, it's just not what's actually the case, right? These guys are playing balls into channels and they're content with giving up free kicks here. Like, look, Cunha's 10 yards, or not even 10, he's 10 yards off from Bruno Fernandes. Mason Mount is offering no width. We don't know where on earth the left wing back is in terms of helping build up. And this little box that I've drawn here around Casemiro and Bruno is exactly what the problem is with United. And for those of you who can't see the screen, this issue is with the midfield and the wing backs, right? Because this area of the field is where they should be. So if Dalot is playing as this left wing back position right here, he has to show something for Casemiro. Ahmad has to show something for Casemiro, just some options for him to pass the ball, because this is actually unacceptable. Like, he can't be forced into a position where he just has to clear the ball no matter what. Like, that can't be your only option as a midfielder. And if it is, there's like a real structural problem there. Like, Bruno shouldn't be able to be 10 yards off his midfield partner, and that's by design, if that makes sense. And the frequency at which this was happening in the game shows it is by design, right? There's no way that somebody could have instructions to be helping their centre midfielder out. They don't do it all game, and that's just okay. Like, if these aren't instructional mistakes, if these aren't mistakes that are being made just by accident, then these players should be taken off the pitch. Like, if they are almost purposefully making these mistakes, like if Amorim is telling Bruno, hey, look, you got to be close to Casemiro so he's got players to bounce off of. Ahmad, same for you. As much as you're a wing back, you got to come and help ball circulation and progression, and they're not doing it, then why are they playing, right? So that was a big issue that Man United found all game, and it's why they had 36% possession. Right, you're not, if you're a team that's good at circulating the ball, then you're not going to have 36% possession. And I guess it's a testament to Liverpool's pressing, because it did, like, that right there that I just showed with Casemiro having to kick the ball out of play is because of the way that Liverpool man-to-man pressed all of their players and almost took them all out of the game, especially the back three and the goalkeeper. But that against almost any press in the entire world is a problem. You can't have 3 at the back, like 3 defenders at the back, and a centre midfielder receive the ball with no midfielders near him. Like, there's not a single midfielder within 10, 15 yards of Casemiro when he receives the ball. That isn't like a winning formula. So that has to change. If you're a United fan, like, okay, put it this way. As a Liverpool fan, and this is going to sound really stupid because Liverpool lost and United won, but as a Liverpool fan, I'm happier with that game than I think a United fan should be. Right? If I was a United fan, I would be more upset than the Liverpool fan version of myself. I don't know if that is, like, I guess I'm kind of explaining that in a silly way, right? But in this world where I'm a Liverpool fan, I'm happy with this. I'd say this is like a 7 out of 10 performance from the team. If I was a United fan, I would say it's a 5 out of 10, because that's not sustainable. Like, you're not going to win games in that manner. You see what I mean? Like, even their goal 2 minutes into the game, or what was it, 62 seconds into the game, that's a head-to-head collision. it was good play from those who were involved in the goal, like Ahmad and not Bruno and Buemo. But that's not a sustainable way to score goals. Like, okay, a player's down with a head injury. Now we're gonna go and score goals. Like, that's not sustainable. Or Maguire's goal, ball comes out to Bruno. He quite literally kicks it to the moon. It drops and it's just on Maguire's head. I understand that you still score 2 goals and like you can still be happy with that, but it's not sustainable. So I'd be nervous about the next game because there isn't anything from this game that you can take as a United fan and be like, damn, I'm probably going to see that next week. Like, I can be excited to see that kind of interplay next week. That's not the case, right? With Liverpool, I can be excited to see Kirkes getting up and down that left wing. I can be excited to see Konate, bro. Konate play. Let me get the screen back up, bro. In one of my TikToks last week, I said something about the guys are going to start learning how to play with Isak. And for a while, like, I mean, you could look at that and be like, bro, it's just wishful thinking, right? But right here, Konate has the ball, and for those of you who can't see, Konate has the ball in the defensive line. In front of him, there's nothing on, right? Other than Isak, who makes a tremendous run in between Maguire and Shaw, and Konate just plays the ball through the gap. He just plays the ball right through the gap, and Isak is now throwing goal. This shot, when we signed Isak, this shot that he takes from this position is exactly what you would want. When you sign him for 125 mil, when this shot is the shot that you generate, you're like, damn, bro. Yes, we're cooking, bro. We're cooking. And last week, I keep saying last week, and if I continue saying last week, I mean the last time we played, which was against Chelsea 2 weeks ago. Konate is not playing this pass. Right here, when he plays this pass, last week that ball would go straight up to Conor Bradley. We'd circulate a little bit more, and it died, fizzle out. This run from Isak, he would make it, and he'd throw his hands up like, "Oh my god, why are you not passing me the ball?" So that is something that when we go to Brentford next weekend, I can say I'm excited to see that happen again. I'm excited to see what is going to happen the next time Isak gets that chance. Those are the things that make me believe that was a 7 out of 10 performance. And on the whole, I don't think he's going to miss that chance. Like, he's probably going to score that 40% of the time, 30% of the time. Today was one of the days where it just was the bigger 70%. Okay, he missed. And I'm cool with that. I'm obviously, like I said, I'm a football purist. I care about people making the right decisions, doing the right things. This passage of play right here, Konate playing that ball and Isak taking a shot, those are the right things to do. There's nothing there that I'm like, okay, you should have done that. Or if he had checked his shoulder and had more information, he would have made a different decision. This is what we want. We want our record signing making runs in behind, and we want players to find him. I'm cool with that. He scored 23 goals in the Premier League last season. If he gets this chance once a game, literally just for one time per game, he'll have 23 goals again this year. So, in that sense, I'm completely okay with the fact that, one, that he missed this, because as a Liverpool fan, when he went through on goal here, I was like, bro, it's 1-1, like, we're chilling. But he missed, and it's okay, because I don't assume that I don't predict that he'd miss that many times. So, Konate playing this ball gives me so much happiness, gives me so much confidence. When I said last week or 2 weeks ago, guys are going to learn how to play with Isak, I didn't think it would come this quickly. I didn't think I'd be seeing our centre-backs playing balls in between full-backs and centre-backs for strikers. I didn't think that would happen. So, that's another thing that I'm really happy about. And yeah, it's like the overarching idea, or the overarching message that I got from this game is that Liverpool did a really, really good job of getting the players that weren't playing the way that they were at the clubs that we signed them from, playing like those players. One of the other examples was Milos Kerkez, right? Kerkez in most of our games, and I don't have a board for it, but I do have a little clip here. In most of our games, Kerkez has been tasked with dropping in, with sitting back, because we've been playing with right backs that like to get forward. And without him sitting back, we wouldn't really have much rest defense. So today, or I guess yesterday, Kirkes was allowed to be in attacking positions that he hasn't been in at all this season. In previous games, when we go on this counter attack right here, and for those of you who can't see, this is a counter attack where Liverpool have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 players, 7 players ahead of, or 6 players ahead of the ball, then the ball carrier, and there are only 5 Man United players defending. Last week, Kirkes isn't getting up there. Slot, almost, obviously I have no idea what Slot is telling the players or what he's thinking, right? But the way that the previous games have gone is almost like, okay, if we have a numerical advantage, that's okay. We don't need to overload. We don't need to do any extra. But this is encouraging. We have every single Manchester United player with their back to our goal, facing their own goal, just sprinting towards their own goal. And what comes of it is one of the biggest moments of the game where Kirkes is able to put a cross into the box. It goes all the way through everybody. Dorgu misses it. Maguire misses it. Shaw misses it. Falls to Salah, and this is obviously one of the biggest moments of the entire game, and definitely deserves some discussion. I should definitely take some time to talk about it. In this situation, probably the worst thing for Salah to do is to shoot and miss the target. There are so many different things here that he could have done that would have been better than what he actually did, and he just made the wrong decision. Shooting towards the near post, which is what he decides to do, is, of all of his shooting opportunities, the worst one he could have chosen. As I saw somebody online say, he could have passed the ball into the far corner. He could have shot the ball to the far corner. But I completely understand why he doesn't, right? Patrick Dorgu is essentially standing in line with the far post. He can't really shoot the ball over there, right? What I think is asinine and is just a terrible, terrible decision, and as a football purist, like I've said 100 times already this podcast, as a purist, I just need the players to do the right things. I need the players to make the right decisions. Right here, Mo Salah has to play the ball across the box, right? He has to play the ball to either Alex Isak or Florian Wirtz, because if he does, they have open goals. I'd put my life savings on one of them putting the ball in the net. So I think right here, obviously Salah missing is a big talking point. Salah not passing to Isak and Wirtz should probably be a bigger talking point. But for me, the best thing about this entire move is that Kirkes is allowed to get into the position right here where he can cross the ball into the box. For me, that's it. If I can come into every single Liverpool game and say, this is what we're going to get every single match, I can't complain. If Kirkes is going to be in, and I put a bunch of heat maps on the screen last week, or when we last did the podcast, a bunch of heat maps in my articles, a bunch of heat maps in my YouTube videos, talking about how Kirkes has not been in the positions that he was at Bournemouth. That's why he's not been good. The same with Wirtz, the same with Ekitike, blah, 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 blah. He's now getting in those positions. There was the exact same thing that went on in the first half, and it led to, I'm not even sure what it led to, but he probably had like 5, 10, 15 crosses in that game, bro. It felt like Trent Alexander-Arnold in his prime. Obviously, nowhere near as good in terms of playing the ball, but we see games where Trent would just cross the ball 15, 20 times, and he'd be like, bro, stop crossing the ball. Stop crossing the ball. But Kirkes had that. You know, they weren't the same quality of crosses. Obviously, nobody's like Trent, but he was able to get forward and he was able to put the ball in the box. And almost every time he put the ball in the box, United were scared. Very scared. No matter the quality of the cross, no matter who the cross was directed to, they had to deal with it. Think about it. As a defender, a ball comes flying into your box. You have to deal with that. They were clearing it to the edge of the box, and then we're picking it back up, and now we have a midfielder on the edge of the box. That's even worse. A midfielder with space on the edge of the box, and these are the things that weren't happening against Chelsea, even against Bournemouth, that was our biggest win of the season. Against Everton, it was okay the first half, but again, we didn't have our fullbacks in positions like this, right? It was more the midfielders getting into these wide spaces. I mean, that's how Gravenberch scored his goal, making the run beyond the defenders or whatever. Now we have our forwards doing that. Now we have our fullbacks doing that. The guys are actually good at it. And that's why I'm excited. That's why I feel good about the future. That's why I feel good about next week. 2 weeks ago, I was like, yo, we might not beat another big team all season. I'm looking at, we're playing City soon. We're playing, I don't even know who else. Like we're playing guys that are good, teams that are good, teams that will exploit like the structural issues that we had. And I think that what this game showed is that for all of the stick that Slot is going to get for the things that he did poorly, he actually seems to know how to fix some issues. And that's all I can ask for. As a manager, he came in, he won a Premier League title. Well done, very good, right? But when things start going wrong, because last year barely anything went wrong, right? We did get violated by PSG at home, but that was the only adversity we really faced in the entire season. Like, other than that, things were fine, right? But when things get tough, what are you going to do to make things better? Now, most Liverpool fans look at the result and look at what happened in that game and say, okay, Slot doesn't know how to stop things from getting worse. But that isn't, that's just not at all what happened. Like, you can't watch that game and say, Slot doesn't know how to right the ship. Of course, you need to go out and get a result. If you lost three in a row, you don't want to lose four in a row, right? But if you've lost three in a row and you played all of those games really poorly, you need to play the next game better. That's what we did. You can't come into the game saying, "Look, I want my, I want my team to just win," right? That's not what we're looking for, and I think that's the difference between managers, like managers that care about results, and managers that care about the long term. Because the vision of football fans is obviously and understandably so very short term. Football fans want to go to the game on Saturday or go to the game on Sunday and see their team win. Most of them are not too concerned with what happened in the game, what the strategic stuff were, because a lot of them are not bothered, they don't care, or maybe they don't understand. They want to see the ball go in the opponent's goal more than it went in theirs. But Slot obviously has ideas that go much further than just this big derby game. And that's why I resonate with, I can't say I resonate with Slot, that's kind of insane, bro. I don't resonate with him at all. I'm sitting in my bedroom, bro. He's at AXA training center with the guys every day. But I think you kind of get what I mean. Like, we played so poorly in our last three losses and practically the entire season that all I wanted to see was an improvement in performance and a fixing or working towards fixing the problems, the glaring problems. That's what happened. You build on that by 5% in the next game, and in 5 games' time, we're talking about one of the best teams in the Premier League. Now, don't get me wrong, that might not happen. There's a good chance that this Liverpool team falters and still has to figure some things out in terms of personnel, strategy, structure, but this was a step in the right direction. The problem with football fans, I think, and I don't want to say it in a derogatory sense, like, oh my god, football fans don't know what they're talking about, but the problem with football fans is that they just want their team to go out and win no matter the cost. And this is why Man United fans are like, I don't know how to put it. I think this is why Man United have gone through the last 10 years that they've gone through, right? Because Man United will lose 2 games in a row. They'll call for drastic changes, drastic changes. And their managers, for some reason, will falter to that and they'll kneel down to that. They'll change a bunch of stuff that's not sustainable, but gets them a result. So they'll play a certain team, win a game 2-1, 1-0, like they did yesterday, and everything's okay. Then they'll go to the next game and do what they tried to do in the last game or whatever, and it won't work. They'll lose a couple games in a row. And it's why Amorim has never won 2 games, well, before yesterday, had never won 2 games in a row in the Premier League, is because the stuff he's doing is not, week to week, you can't rely on that. Right? Next week, Maguire might never have a shot on goal, let alone score the winning goal next week. Okay? Next week, it might be a different midfielder that wins the aerial duel or loses the aerial duel to Mbomo, doesn't have a head injury, and now you don't. Do you see what I mean? Like, there's no rhyme or reason to the way that Manchester United play. And there are lots of teams that are like that, and I'm happy that Slot didn't bow down to that. He didn't bow down to the results. You know, with this thing that came out saying that Ratcliffe, the United owner, is going to give Amarim 3 years. If that's true, then United might actually have a really good chance to be good in a few years because he might not be so beholden to this idea that outcomes are the be all and end all. Because as much as they are, you can't consistently get outcomes that are good without the right inputs. And inputs don't come overnight. That's why to expect Liverpool to just come into this game and win, fine, you can hope for your team to win, sure, but the way that the win comes about, okay, how do I put this in a way that that make not just makes sense in my head, but makes sense to the fact that I'm speaking to a bunch of people right now. There's a way that Liverpool could have got a result in this game that would not have been sustainable for the rest of the season. Not just sustainable for next week or the week after, but it wouldn't have been something that you could replicate for the rest of the season. Okay, that's one thing. There's a way that Liverpool could have got a result that would have been sustainable for the rest of the season. And there's a way that Liverpool could come into this game today, put out a performance that is sustainable and replicable for the rest of the season that resulted in a loss. And that's what happened. They could have come in here, like I said, played a style of football that you can't rely on for the rest of the year and won 1-0 or 2-0 or whatever. Now, the majority of fans would have been happy, but I wouldn't have been, and I don't think Slot would have been, because that wouldn't have given him any confidence to what he could do for the rest of the year. Okay? There is a way that Liverpool could have come into that game, played fantastically, and got a result. That's really rare. Okay? Because that would indicate a massive turnaround from the previous games that it's not something that you can expect. You come from playing really poorly 10 games in a row. I think it's 10. We won 7, then we lost 3. Yeah, 10 games in a row. And then come into a game against your rivals, play really well, and win the game. That's not something that you can expect or you can rely on when you've just been shown that 10 games in a row you've not played very well. So the fact that Liverpool played well, full stop, that's a win. That's something that as a fan, and Slot probably goes to bed last night, he probably goes to bed like, okay, I have something here. It's not all done. Like, it's not all doom and gloom. And if that's the kind of manager he is, I have full faith in him. If he's the kind of manager that went to bed last night like, oh my God, the pressure's on. Like, oh no, there's no way. There's nothing good to take from that game. We lost 4 games in a row. If he's that kind of manager, I never call for managers to be removed from their job. Never. I've never asked for a manager to be sacked or whatever. If he's that kind of manager, then I just don't have faith in him for the rest of the season and the rest of the time he's a Liverpool manager. Because I don't think those kinds of managers can be successful for an extended period of time. And that's the kind of club that I want to support. That's the kind of club that I do support. It's a club that I hope would be good for an extended period of time. Not just good for a year or good for 2 years or in little bursts. Because that's what Liverpool used to be. Back in 2017, 18, 19, when Klopp first came into the club or when he first started having lots of success or exciting football, that's what we were. We would go and win 4-1 and then we'd go lose 4-0 the next week. Or there was a season when we lost 5-0 to Man City. And when I was that age, 5, 6 years ago, I was like 16, 17 years old. Bro, that was fun to me. It was enjoyable to see my team go out, score 5 goals, and then the next week we concede 5. And it's like, bro, it's up and down. It's like you never know what you're going to get. But now, the way that I see football and the way that I think that, or the way that I understand that successful teams have to play, if Slot can take from this game that there are a lot of positives that you can draw from and build on, then that's the kind of manager that I truly believe will be able to take this team places that we didn't even get to see with Klopp. Because Klopp, like as much as Klopp won stuff, and the way I just started that segment is almost as if like I'm gonna say some bad stuff about Klopp, and that's not what this is at all. But the way Klopp managed and the way that he did things was very high octane, right? It wasn't very conducive of like sustained success because for a lot of the time we were just really erratic, and it was good because the kinds of players that we had were also like that. Like we love counterattacks if we have Salah. We love counterattacks if we have Mane. We love intricate play between the front three if we have Firmino right in the middle. So the way that we played was perfect for the players that we have. The players we have now, it's not the same. Like you can't. We're gonna lose a lot of these 50-50 games with the current team that we have, right? Trent Alexander-Arnold is the kind of guy that's gonna win you a 50-50 game with one pass, okay? Andrew Robertson, when he was playing left back for us in his prime, is the kind of guy with one cross is gonna win you a 50-50 game. Mo Salah, when he was 27 years old, is the kind of guy with one run, with one shot, is going to win you a 50-50 game. Now, we don't really have players like that. We have players that are going to win you the... They're going to win you control of games that give you a better opportunity to win. When you think about Jordan Henderson, you think about Fabinho, you think about Gini Wijnaldum. Now, that's a midfield three that's going to win you the ball back a ton. It's going to win you the ball high up the pitch, and it's going to give you the chance to score a goal in one counter press. McAllister, Gravenberch, and Szoboszlai are not going to win you a game with one counter press. They're going to win you a game by killing your opposition with passes. They're going to pass the ball around. They're going to carry the ball. They're going to tire your opposition out, and they're going to give you a lot of opportunities to win the game that are sustainable or that can be replicated many times over. Sometimes when we had that midfield three of Fabinho, Wijnaldum, Henderson, there'll be some games where they just didn't press well. Now, on the whole, they were really, really good pressers. Those three were fantastic pressers, right? So for the majority of games, they press fantastically. They press really well. And in that sense, you could replicate those really high up the pitch turnovers and really high up the pitch like counter presses and like ball winning. This team doesn't really have that. Mane was one of the best pressers in the league. Salah was a really good presser when he was a lot younger. Firmino was a great presser as well. I mean, guys were talking about Firmino playing in midfield because he was so good at winning the ball back defensively, which I'll quickly say doesn't make any sense because, and it really frustrates me. Like, I don't want to get, I'm not getting mad. It's just like I don't want to get irritated, right? Because people see certain traits in players and they go, okay, he could play this position. But like, what Firmino would be asked to do in midfield is completely different from what he'd be asked to be doing up front defensively. But anyway, I'll forget about all of that. The midfield three we have now, the forwards we have now, we can't ask for that kind of game. We can't expect little moments where players are just going to win us a game in like one action. That's what Klopp's teams had. Slot's teams don't have that. As much as some of the players are the same, Van Dijk, same, Konate, same. I mean, Bradley was there for a little bit when Klopp was leaving. I mean, Klopp did bring in a lot of these players, but they weren't the players they are now, if that makes sense. Gravenberch wasn't a deep line playmaker. He was not a number 6. Szoboszlai was like, I don't know how to describe what Szoboszlai was before Slot because he had just such a minimal role in the squad, but now he's almost like the chief creator. Like in that game, everything ran through him. So it's like the players now are completely different. So we can't expect results in an immediate manner, like the same way we did when we had the previous team. Like I said, like guys would win games in one action, one counter press, one corner counter attack, one 1-2 between the forward. That stuff's not happening now. The way this Liverpool team is set out is more like Man City are, more like teams that control games. It's like we don't have that cutting edge, and that's fine. Like you don't really need the cutting edge if you're going to control games the way that the players that we have can control games. So, just to circle back to what I was saying, if Slot can take from this game that this was really good, if he can take from this game that there are actually things to build on, and that the next game might be the game where we have a good performance and a good result, then he's the kind of manager that is perfect for this kind of squad, perfect for this kind of pressure that it comes with being a Liverpool manager. Klopp almost had like this perfect wind, or this almost you couldn't replicate the kind of circumstances that Klopp had as a Liverpool manager, where fans just wanted to see something fun. Fans just wanted to enjoy watching their team play. Okay? Fans just wanted to see sustained periods of success and sustained periods of attacking success, because the teams we had before were just offensively were really bad, right? Some, or I guess right before Klopp, join because we did have Suarez, Sturridge, Sterling, all of that. But in an in a sense of like watching good football, like Liverpool fans for so long just wanted to watch good football. They didn't want just heroes. They didn't just want one man teams like we had for so long. We had Torres and Gerrard for so long. And it felt like it was them versus the world. Then we had Suarez and Sturridge. It felt like it was them versus the world. We wanted like a team we could root for, a team we could get behind. And he gave us that. That 2017-18 season was, for many Liverpool fans, the best season that they can remember as a Liverpool fan. We beat Man City in the Champions League. I think it was that year. We came fourth in the Premier League. We beat Man City in the Premier League, I'm fairly certain. I think that was also the year we lost 5-0 to Man City in the Premier League. But for Liverpool fans, like I don't really have bad memories of that season. Like I remember almost everything being fun, electric. We made a Champions League final, lost 3-1 to Real Madrid. I think it was 3-1. Maybe 4. It was when Karius rolled the ball to Benzema, they scored. When Bale scored the bicycle kick, when Bale scored the shot, Karius dropped in the net. I'm fairly certain that was 3-1. All Liverpool fans were happy with that season. Then you follow up the next year, and we were actually involved in a title race. Like we were actually, like, I don't know if that makes, like the way that Klopp was able to manage, and it's almost like there was no pressure because of how bad things were before. Like everything was garbage. So all he had to do was just be relatively good, and as it just kept getting better and better and better, and these players were coming into their own, right? Salah was coming into his own, Mane was coming into his own, Firmino the same. Like these guys were getting better and better and better each week, when all of a sudden we're in a title race. Sorry, the same with Trent. He came out of nowhere and was all of a sudden just one of the most important players in the team. The next year, we win the Premier League and we completely dominate the Premier League. It's like that was the first Premier League title that Liverpool won ever. Barely any like. There's not real pressure to win a Premier League when you've never won a Premier League. As much as you go into the season as favourites, la da, Liverpool fans were just happy to see their team dominating. Slot doesn't have. He doesn't have that at all. Like those sets of circumstances where the stakes are relatively low, he has the highest stakes that any Liverpool manager has ever had, I think. Because for Klopp, right, as much as he won the Premier League, he won the Champions League, each year after you do that, there's a lot of pressure to be just as good. But for Klopp, it was like he had done things that had never been done for Liverpool in, I guess, Champions League in 14 years, Premier League ever, right? All of the cup wins and all this, competing on four fronts. Every season for Klopp was just, well, thank you for your service. Please do a little bit more. For Arne Slot, Liverpool fans and Liverpool as a club are now being seen as a team that should always be good, a team that shouldn't have a slump, a team that, if Klopp ever had I mean, I don't think he ever lost 4 games in a row, but if Klopp had lost 4 games in a row in 2021, I mean, there was a year we came third in the Premier League, and it was almost like, oh yeah, whatever. When Van Dijk got injured and a bunch of guys were injured, it was just like, okay, whatever, because everybody was infatuated with Klopp, right? That was the year after we won the Premier League. Everybody was so infatuated with him that it didn't really matter. Slot doesn't have that luxury because as much as he won the Premier League in his first season, as much as he brought another Premier League title to Liverpool Football Club, he doesn't have that thank you for your service, please do a little bit more, because he wasn't the first to do it. Klopp was the first to do it, so he was a club legend no matter what. Arne Slot, if things continue to not be good, or if things were in this season to go catastrophically bad, I don't think people would see him as a club legend. I think people would see him as a guy who was able to piggyback off Klopp, which I don't think is true at all. Right? I really don't think that's true. The team Klopp left was not a team capable of winning the Premier League. Like we saw, I mean, we're in the Premier League title race all the way up until maybe 5-6 games before the end of the season, and that team was bad. Like I was confused. Well, it wasn't bad. Obviously, I'm being really facetious there, but I was confused as to how we were top of the league all the way to game week. What was it, 32 or 33 or whatever? It's like, yo, what is going on here? And then when we faltered, I think we drew to Fulham. Maybe we lost to Everton and Palace or something like that. when all of those things happened, nobody was surprised. Nobody was like, "Oh my God, no way, Liverpool will drop out of the title race." It was almost like we were just keeping the top spot warm for Arsenal or Man City. So when we dropped out, nobody was confused. So for Klopp, when he left, as much as the team was good, like this was a good set of players, a good team, a good ideology, a good system. If Slot said, "Hey, do everything that the last guy told you," we wouldn't have won the league, and we wouldn't have won the league by 10 points. Winning the league by 10 points is not some small. You know what I'm saying? Like to win the league by 10 points, you have to be a lot better than the rest of the guys in the league. Okay, he made some real changes, some drastic changes to that team that completely made that Premier League season. Okay, Gravenberch being the number six as opposed to this, bro. McAllister was playing number six for that Liverpool team that came third in the Premier League. That was first with 6 games to go or whatever. It doesn't even make sense. If you were to say that now, it would be like, what are you talking about? Right? Dominic Szoboszlai was an afterthought. He was a whatever player. Okay, Mo Salah was what Mo Salah was, but Luis Diaz wasn't what he was in that season last year. Okay, the things that he changed, like I don't think people get it, right? They say, oh, he just inherited this squad, and look at what Klopp inherited versus what he inherited. Of course, it's different, but without the changes, albeit they didn't have to be the biggest changes in the entire world, but without those changes, there's no Premier League title. And that shouldn't just be swept under the rug. You can't just say, okay, he had a decently big head start. Because he didn't have a head start. Like, he was behind Arsenal, was behind Man City. He made absolutely no signings. He didn't do anything. He brought in Chiesa, who didn't actually start a Premier League game. He didn't score a Premier League goal. This goal he scored this year was his first ever Premier League goal. So, this idea that Slot just had it easy is, I mean, it's one of those things that with the internet now and with just the way that media is, it's something that is carved into history and will never ever be forgotten. I guess the only way that this would ever be, like Slot would ever be somewhat immortalized for winning that Premier League is in 30 years when the narrative slowly switches. But as of right now, the idea that he was just handed this Premier League because teams were bad and he inherited a good squad, that's the kind of idea that is going to be set in stone for a really, really long time. And there's nothing he can do about that. People are saying now Slot is up to you. Now it's your turn to manage the team as if Klopp was managing last year. That's just not true. Like Klopp had Gravenberch, decided, okay, instead of playing him as a six, I'm going to bring in Endo. Now that's the kind of blunder. I don't want to call it a blunder because Klopp was a really good manager, but not recognizing Gravenberch's capability or capacity, I should say, to play as a number six was a mistake that Klopp made. If he put Gravenberch in that position to start, what was it, 21, 23, 24, then maybe we would have won the Premier League. Maybe that was the one change that we needed. Well, Slot comes in and he makes that change, right? Slot comes in and Conor Bradley is all of a sudden capable of taking Trent's position, capable of relieving Trent of his duties when he decides to leave at the end of the year. Those are things that Klopp wasn't really able to get out of these players. So to say that Slot did nothing, I I don't understand it. And as much as that's always going to happen, rival fans are always going to say stuff like that. I don't get how Liverpool fans don't see it until I think about what Liverpool fans want. Liverpool fans want results. That's it. They don't care about strategy. They don't care about tactics. They don't care really about what a manager did to get stuff. They think about, is this manager winning us games? What was it like before? And before Slot, things were really good. Everybody was happy. So Slot coming in and doing what he did, guys were almost, I don't want to say entitled, but Liverpool fans have got to the point where like we're kind of entitled now. We think that we always have to win, and that's how it is after you have a manager like Klopp. It's like United fans, bro. After Alex Ferguson, entitled to winning, entitled to being in every single game, entitled to have a chance to win every single game. Well, you guys don't have the foundation, you don't have the strategy, you don't even have the players really to have that kind of mentality. And right now with the Liverpool team, we don't have the we don't have the strategy that we should be going into games with this mindset. We have, and I used this analogy last week. I'm getting really good at touch typing, guys. Like I'm kind of getting really good, right? My words per minute is now like just over 40. And okay, I say really good. To me, it's really good because 2 weeks ago I was at 9 words per minute because I was having to think so much about which finger to use for each key, where are the keys, whatever. Before I started touch typing, I was at like 55 words per minute. I thought I was really quick, right? Now, let's say Liverpool's team last year is 55 words per minute. It's quick, it's good. Remember, this is relative to me. It's not actually quick, it's just what I think, okay? We have added players who should make us better. Touch typing should make you a better typist. You should be a better typist when you touch type because you don't have to look at the keyboard. You can look at the screen, fix mistakes. So adding Florian Wirtz, adding Isak, adding Ekatike is a better. You have more tools at your disposal to make you better. That's what touch typing is. I have more tools, I have more fingers that I'm using at my disposal to make me better at typing. But I have to learn how to use the tools. In 3 weeks of touch typing, I still haven't gotten to the heights of my looking at the keyboard typing with two fingers nonsense. Okay? So although in your mind, if someone asks you, hey, do you touch type or do you look at the keyboard when you type? They'll say, and I say, hey, I touch type. They'll say, oh, you must be way quicker than me. I don't look. Or I do look at the keyboard, right? They haven't realized that I haven't got to the point where I know how to use the tools yet. That's what Liverpool is right now. Right now, Liverpool has all the tools. We have all the tools that we could ask for at our disposal to win another Premier League, to be competitive in the Champions League, FA Cup, Carabao Cup, all of it. But we haven't learned how to use all the tools. Look, all of these tools, right? Same way with touch typing. I now have all 10 fingers I can use to type. Liverpool have all of these players that they can use in their team. But I haven't figured out exactly how to use all those fingers correctly. I've not figured it out. I've not gotten back to how I was before I was touch typing. Arnie Slot hasn't figured out how to get back to the results and the way that we played last year because he's got a bunch of new tools. So that's that's the state of Liverpool right now, and it's frustrating just to go even all the way back to what I was saying at the beginning about Liverpool fans and the way that they're thinking about changes that they can make. Because I'm seeing some really ridiculous stuff on the internet right now. Like when I say ridiculous stuff, I mean I'm seeing guys drafting systems that make no sense. Like, and okay, I'll wrap up soon because I've realized I've gone on for an hour now, and at this point, I'm not. I don't feel like I'm not really ranting. I'm kind of just giving my 2 cents or whatever. Some of the stuff that I'm seeing on the internet when it comes to changes Liverpool can make, should make, will make, ought to make, haven't made, like it doesn't make any sense because, as I said before, football fans are not concerned really with what it takes to like actually have a working system, have a working ideology, have a working set of performers. And what I've seen in the aftermath of this Man United game is complete evidence of that. I'm going to pull up the screen share right now so I can show you, first of all, what we started yesterday's game with. So this is the lineup that we started yesterday with, right? We played a 4-3-3, which has been Liverpool bread and butter for the last, I don't even know. Like we've been playing this formation since even before Klopp joined, I think. Maybe after Klopp joined. But this is what we started with yesterday. We had Mamadashvili in goal, with Conor Bradley, Konate, Van Dijk, and Kirkez across the back line. Gravenberch in the six with McAllister and Soboslai as eights. Really, it's like a double pivot because McAllister drops a lot more than Soboslai does, and Soboslai finds tons more freedom in the attacking space. So it's really a double pivot between McAllister and Gravenberch. And then Soboslai is the 10. Gakpo, Isak, and Salah up front. Now, on paper, there are some problems with this system, okay? Now, the biggest problem, and this is the problem that Liverpool fans have the most, the biggest problem here is that I don't know where Ekatike is gone, bro. I had an Ekatike little dot somewhere, but he's gone. 3 players are not in this squad that should, in theory, be playing for Liverpool. One is Hugo Ekitike, who's for some reason not here. The other is Florian Wirtz, and the other is Jeremy Frimpong. When we signed all of these players, we were all excited to see them play. This lineup doesn't have any of them. Okay? It doesn't have a single one of those players, and people find that problematic. So, what they've decided to do is just think about these just stupid lineup. I don't want to be horrible, right? So I shouldn't call these people's ideas stupid. I should only call them stupid after you question them on them. So for now, we're just going to say people are making these lineups, right? Now, another problem with this system is it has some players in it who are in bad form. Now, Salah has been in absolutely terrible form this season, so people would love to get rid of him. Another is Gakpo, who for some reason people hate Gakpo, and I know in the last podcast I was getting onto him about his desire to cut in a lot and the fact that he's not direct. Now, he told me to shut up in this Man United game because all he did was just go and go and go at Amad Diallo. Now, Amad Diallo did well in some duels. And another thing, people, for some reason, whenever like a winger gets tackled by someone who's not even a fullback or maybe is a fullback, they go, oh my God, he got locked up. Brother, do you expect a winger to win 100% of his dribbles or complete 100% of his dribbles? Like, what are you talking about? But anyway, people want to get rid of Gakpo. So they want to bring Wirtz in, they'd love to bring Ekitike in, and they want to get rid of Bradley. Okay? Now, another thing that they'd love to do is allow these wing backs to get up the pitch, Kirkez and Frimpong. And I agree that that would be really good for them because this is where they're really good. Now, as I've already spoken about in this podcast, Kirkez did tons of that in this United game, and this was probably his best game in the Liverpool shirt. So their ideas, people's ideas to allow Kirkez to get up the pitch, really, really good ideas, and I resonate with them, and I agree with them. So now you have this three up here, Wirtz, Isak, and Ekitike, and people are like, well, how do we get the... Well, let's play a diamond. Let's play a diamond, okay? Let's play a 4-1-2-1-2 diamond. Now, this solves a lot of problems that people have about a lot of the players in the squad, okay? Because there are no wingers, there's no Gakpo in here to get in Kirkez's way. He gets up the pitch. Because there is no Mo Salah occupying this right space right here, Frimpong can get up the pitch. Now, with Florian Wirtz playing in this free number 10 role, because he has three midfielders behind him, McAllister, Szoboszlai, and Gravenberch, no matter what he does, this three is there to help him defend. Okay? And that's Wirtz's biggest... That's almost like the biggest part of his game overall, is Florian Wirtz needs to have a level of... or a lack of defensive responsibility that's really difficult to get into a team, because having a midfielder have little to no defensive responsibility on paper just sounds so stupid and is really difficult to work in. Now, Leverkusen did a really good job of it because they had just some real gangsters in midfield with Xhaka and Robert Andrik. They're just gangsters, bro. Like, it doesn't matter who's coming at them, they're winning the duels, right? So people are like, well, now we have this little 5 thing here where whenever Wirtz makes a mistake, because Wirtz makes a lot of mistakes, and that's part of his game. He's a risk taker. He'll try a pass that doesn't seem like it's on, but he's capable of making that pass. So in this position with these players in behind him, Wirtz is able to take the risks that make him such a good player, and they have this 5. Now, on paper, I do not disagree with this 4-1-2-1-2 system. And again, for those of you who are not able to see the screen because you're listening just on Spotify or whatever, the biggest thing that's come out of this United game is this new 4-1-2-1-2 idea where Isak and Ekitike play up front with each other, Wirtz in behind, and then the remaining players from that starting lineup, they remain there. Kirkez at left back. Well, I guess Frimpong now gets to come in at right back, and you have the same midfield and defence. The problem I have with this is that the people who are proposing this 4-1-2-1-2 system are not thinking about what happens if things don't go well. Okay? It's very easy to say, wow, this system is fantastic because it allows Wirtz to play freely, Isak to link up with Ekitike, and Ekitike to link up with the midfielders, the fullbacks to get forward. All of this rides on the back of your initial idea of what this formation would be playing out in real life. What happens, okay, if you come up against Manchester City and you're playing this formation? And, oh no, in fact, this is an idea I had. As soon as I saw this 4-1-2-1-2 stuff, I said, if you're doing it to get rid of Wirtz's or to minimize Wirtz's defensive responsibilities, what happens if another team just puts four guys in midfield as well? So I had the idea of what would happen if Arsenal brought, oh my goodness me, why do they have Lokonga? Anyway, if Arsenal brought a 4-1-2-1-2 diamond and played that against Liverpool, what would then happen to Florian Wirtz's defensive responsibilities? Because he would have some now, and I'll quickly pull up the squad that I assumed that Arsenal could run if they decided to mirror this 4-1-2-1-2, because they have the players to do it. If they mirrored this 4-1-2-1-2, what would happen? Well, now Florian Wirtz has to do some defensive work, right? Because it's now 4 versus 4 in midfield. And if you ask one of these tacticos online, well, what do you think about that 4-4-2 or that diamond being mirrored by another team? That's when there's not really much of a response, because they're almost not thinking that far ahead. And I think that's the problem, in my opinion, with, I don't want to say pundits and tacticos, because I think what these guys bring to football is really good. The fact that fans are able to get involved and they can voice their opinions is really, really good for football, because it means, one, more opinions are being voiced, more ideas are being floated, and I love the fact that ideas are floated. I've said so many times, I just love football. Like, I love talking football, I love being involved in debates about football, but what happens, right, when Arsenal rock this 4-1-2-1-2 diamond as well, and you now have Florian Wirtz being tasked with dealing with Martin Zubimendi? The whole reason that you decided to do this is so that you lessened his defensive responsibility. Arsenal very well could rock a team like this, because they could start it in some 4-3-3. Arsenal play a base 4-3-3 with Eze sometimes playing as a left winger, but they could very easily line up with that same 11, slide Saka as an inside forward, and ask Eze to play in the number 10 in the hole, which he's done quite a bit since he's joined Arsenal. He's played a lot in the 10. Obviously, normally he's replacing a midfielder, so Odegaard wouldn't be playing, and Eze would then be allowed to roam in the 10. But they very easily could do this. And for all of these tacticos, and this is what my question is to them, is, are you thinking past what it looks like on paper? Because on paper, this Liverpool squad is fantastic. You've got Frimpong in there, and he's allowed to go forward. You've got Kerkez in there, and he's allowed to go forward. You've got Wirtz in the 10 with little to no defensive responsibility, and he's given the freedom to make mistakes because there's a rest defense of McAllister, Gravenberch, Szoboszlai, Van Dijk, and Konate all ready to defend against any counterattacks. Well, what if a team, because for some reason it's like these tacticos think that the opposing managers are also tacticos who don't understand football. What happens when the other team just decide to mirror your formation and say, hey, look, we think that our 4 is better than your 4? Because if you give Florian Wirtz the idea that, look, you don't really have much defensive responsibility, just rock around in the 10 and, take risks and be who you are, which I think is a really good way to get the most out of him. What happens if Arsenal rock up and say, well, I think that he's not going to be able to defend Zubimendi, who's a tempo controller? Now, if you don't get a hold of Martin Zubimendi, then you're kind of cooked, right? If you don't get a hold of a player it's like not getting a hold of Sergio Busquets. Obviously, they're not the same player. Busquets is far superior footballer, or was at least. If you don't get a hold of Martin Zubimendi, you're in a lot of trouble. A lot of trouble. You're almost going to sacrifice possession for the rest of the game. And this team, this 4-1-2-1-2 diamond, out of possession, is not a very good team. Okay? Frimpong, you want him to do as little defending as you can. He's not the best. He's not bad. And this whole idea that he's bad at defending is really weird. I don't get it. And sorry. I think that this is something that happens to a lot of footballers that are good at attacking is if you're good as a defender at attacking, people just assume that you're not good at defending. And there's like a baseline thing that people just assume. It's the same thing used to happen with Alphonso Davies, right? Alphonso Davies is such a good offensive left back that people thought, oh well, he can't defend. Obviously, he can't defend, and I just I don't understand, right? Frimpong, he's very similar to Davies in the sense that his best defensive attributes are the fact that he's fast. So any balls in behind, any all of that stuff, he's gonna deal with all of it because he's fast. Okay, so on the whole, I don't think he's as bad a defender as people make out, but again, you don't want him to be doing that much defending because that's not his strength. Well, if you don't get a hold of Martin Zubimendi because you're playing Florian Wirtz in your 10, who, don't get me wrong, he's a willing presser, he's like a decent presser, but he's not going to win you any duels, right? He's not going to go in there and take the ball off him or really prevent him from winning the ball that well. Now you have this problem where the game is not the way that you thought it would be with this system, okay? You thought that this 4-1-2-1-2 system was going to give you freedom to link up and freedom for your fullbacks to get forward, but you don't have the ball. Okay, you don't have the ball the same way you thought you would. Now what do you do? And that's the problem, is that these tacticos haven't thought about what would happen past their ideas, past their fantasies. Now, this is probably why Arne Slot hasn't implemented things like this, because when I played football, when I used to play for Norfolk, which was, I'd probably say, just for reference, so that it makes sense as to why I'm using this example, when I played for Norfolk, it was probably when I was, if you use the percentile of all football players through every age, when I was an under 16 was probably the highest percentile. Now I'm far better than I was back then, but in terms of comparisons with me and the players that I was playing against and playing with, I was probably the best I've ever been. When we trained with the best players in the entire county, with the managers weren't the best in the entire county, but you see, we're trying to do things that optimize the best players in the entire county. We would go to training and trial random formation. We played 4-4-2. That was our stock, our box standard. It was very old school. And it meant I didn't actually play very much. I barely played for Norfolk, actually. I was really just in the squad. I probably played like, let's say there were 10 games. I probably played a combined 2 matches worth of minutes. But my point still stands. We would go to training and try a 4-3-3. Or in friendlies, I probably played more than 2 matches now, thinking about like all the friendlies or whatever, but it doesn't matter. We would trial 4-3-3. We would trial three up front. We would trial three at the back. Like we tried a bunch of different things, and in training you could see, okay, this doesn't work very well, that doesn't work very well. So we never used them in games ever. I mean, a 4-3-3 was used in one friendly for 15 minutes, and that was it, right? Because of how it looked in training, how it looked in games. You think Arne Slot isn't doing as much experimenting as an under 16 manager? You think Arne Slot is not going to practice or going to training saying, hey guys, we're going to try this out. We're going to try. You think he goes to training every day and says, this is the system we're playing and that's it? You don't think he's trying to optimize all the players? And I think that's what fans think. Fans think that Arne Slot is not aware of the 4-4-2 diamond. They think that he doesn't know what it is and that's why he's not playing it. That's not the case, bro. He obviously knows what it is. He's just, there's something holding him back. Now, he might feel forced to do it now that the results have gone the wrong way for so long, but this is what got him this job. You think he's going to abandon it immediately after he hasn't exhausted all options? See, this is what I don't think those that are writing or those that are like voicing their opinions, I don't think they're thinking that far into the future. And most of it is because football is really emotional. So you think, well, my team's losing, there has to be a solution, here's my solution. Now, it might be a solution on paper, but it isn't really something you can implement into an actual game because you haven't thought past your fantasies about it. You haven't thought, hey, Arsenal might rock up with a 4-4-2 diamond of their own. They have a midfield four that they think is going to dominate ours physically, and that means we're not going to have the ball. Now, you have Liverpool right where you want them, without the ball. with Kirkes having to do tons of defending, Frimpong having to do tons of defending, Wirtz not being allowed to roam as freely and having to actually do some defensive work. Now, that's the problem, okay, is that the solution is not as simple as the tactics board makes it look. On the tactics board, you can do whatever you want. You can, and this is another thing is that with all of these systems that I've seen, is like guys aren't thinking about details, because I see a lot of this, which for those of you who can't see, is this Ekitike and Isak partnership, and I know it's a really, really small detail, but they have it this way around with Isak on the left and Ekitike on the right. Now, if you really were putting all of your ideas and you're bucking up your ideas and really thinking about how this will work, you would never have it that way around, because Ekitike plays exclusively as a left-sided forward. He barely ever plays on the right side, and if he's over there for some reason that wasn't attacking. So whether that be a corner or defending a corner, or he was pressing, he found himself over there. He doesn't like to be over there. Now, the fact that people are just throwing these teams together, and like I said, I'm a football purist, and at the root of my body and my being, I'm a perfectionist. So this stuff is what kind of frustrates me about what I'm seeing online, is that you're posing these solutions and these answers to Liverpool's problems, but you don't take enough time to even iron out the details. Ekitike should always play as a left striker in this, because if Salah's going to play, he has to play on the right. Isak is more comfortable being on the right side of these two because he plays across the front line. He's not really an exclusive left or right winger when it comes to helping out in support or whatever. These are the kinds of things that you have to think about if you're going to say Arne Slot played a system. You got to think, how does this player interact with the position you're playing him in? How does this player... Because this is a problem with all of Liverpool's players so far, is that what they've been asked to do thus far is not familiar to them. Kirkes having to defend a lot. Jeremy Frimpong having to play as a right winger or a right back, not a right wing back. Like, all of these tiny little things are the reason why the players haven't looked that good. And it's why over the international break, they all look fine. What did Gakpo score? 2 goals and an assist. Ekitike had a... Bro, that game, L'Equipe gave him a 4 out of 10, bro. That was one of the best comps I've ever seen in my life. Obviously, it's a comp, but do you know what I'm saying? Wirtz went out there. I think he was fine. McAllister scored 2 goals. Szoboszlai scored a goal. Gravenberch was fine. Like, these guys are good footballers, but at Liverpool, they're being asked to do stuff that is like, it's not familiar to them. It's not what they're good at. So when you build a dream 11 or, hey, Slot, run this, if you really want it to be implemented, you really think it's going to work, you have to iron out the details. You have to think what would work, because this is the exact same... These are the same people that at the beginning of the season were rocking the same Liverpool 4-3-3 with all of the players, almost all the players that started the Man United game and started the Chelsea game. They were going crazy about that as well. So the same kinds of reaction... There was no call for 4-1-2-1-2 Diamond before this little slide happened. There was no, this is exactly what we need to be playing. The way they're talking about these systems, that these new systems that they've concocted, is as if this is what we should have been playing the whole time. Well, this is the kind of same reaction that you had about the 4-3-3 when you first decided that, you know, McAllister and Szoboszlai could play as a pivot, or Gravenberch and Szoboszlai could play as a pivot with Wirtz as a 10. Then you watched it and you were like, oh, wait, Wirtz is having to do too much defensive work. Well, you could have known that from before. Like, you had all the same information about these players that you had before. So, like, if anything, there was not much to be surprised about if you really did your, not even research, but just really ironed out the details. So I think this is what's going to happen with this 4-1-2-1-2, is that, well, I don't think it's going to happen, because I don't think Slot's just going to do it the same way that people think he will, or people are saying that he should. But what will happen is, in an ideal world for these fans, is this system will be implemented, then they'll see Isak is over on this left side, Ekitike is on the right. They'll be like, wait a second, Ekitike doesn't look that good linking up with Wirtz, or Ekitike doesn't look really good in this right half space, or Kirkes is getting caught out a lot when he goes forward because we don't have anybody in this. Like, do you know what I'm saying? People are talking about this 5 rest defense with McAllister, Szoboszlai, Gravenberch, Konate and Van Dijk. being able to help Verts because they're there to rest defend. Well, they're all there to rest defend in the middle of the pitch. So you've not even thought that much about the wide areas. And basically every Premier League team plays with wingers. So what you allow, and this is getting very nerdy, I guess, about this system, is what you allow by playing this system is free releases for the wingers. And by free releases, I mean, for those of you who can't see the screen, I'm now just moving the Arsenal system back to their 4-3-3 so that they've got wingers again. If Milos Kerkez decides to go and attack, Bukayo Saka doesn't have to follow him. Because we have no wingers, Julian Timber is really only tasked with defending one wide player, which means Saka, although this could be risky for Arsenal by not bringing that many bodies back, Arsenal are essentially allowed to keep their wingers on the halfway line, and as soon as they win the ball back, they have free releases. McAllister, Szoboszlai, Gravenberch are all central midfielders. Arsenal win the ball back, and they decide to go quickly. There is absolutely nothing ahead of Bukayo Saka for 40 yards. And the same thing for Eze on the other side, or if they decide to show up with Martinelli. So these systems that are being posited online are dreams. They're complete dreams, and dreams often come true. A lot of the time, dreams about your starting 11 and what you want from your players, a lot of the time they come true, you know. So what we dreamt of when we first signed Mane and Salah to play with Firmino, we dreamt of the link up between those three, and it came true. But these are things that people are positing like this is going to solve all our problems. But you haven't thought about what the downside. In no video have I seen, hey, this 4-1-2-1-2 is really good, but this could happen. And I think that's why, or that's what my biggest issue is with people, and not with people. With people's ideas. And for me, it's something that I always do because it's like, I don't want to get too, I don't know how to describe it. I don't want to get too academic, but my entire life in school, I've studied and I've loved subjects where you have to like write essays and provide both sides of the argument. So you've got to do for and against, and it's almost hardwired into my head to be fair when I'm making arguments because I know that there are two sides to the story. When I look at this 4-1-2-1-2, as much as I love what it looks like, I'm hardwired to think, okay, what's the downside? What's the trade-off? But people online aren't doing that. They're not thinking what's the trade-off. I've not heard a single person talk about the downsides of the 4-1-2-1-2. Just Isak Ekitike have to play together. Verts needs to play ahead of a midfield three, so he has a lot of freedom. What is the downside of that, guys? What are the things that, if we did that, what are the things that could come back to bite us? Those are the things that Arne Slot is thinking about, and that's probably why he hasn't rocked with this system. If there were no downsides the same way that guys online are talking about, you think a manager who just won a Premier League last year wouldn't be implementing them? So that's my 2 cents about all of the calls on social media for Liverpool to do certain things. And I'm going to be honest, I've seen some things that are... I highlighted this 4-1-2-1-2 because it's the one that I think has the highest likelihood of being successful or being useful. I've seen some really, really ridiculous things over the last, I guess, 12 hours, 18 hours, whatever. I've seen some really, really ridiculous things that even teams in the mid-table, the bottom of the table, would cause serious, serious problems for. And guys just don't seem to be bothered. It's almost like, I don't know how to describe it other than people assume that they're better, or they assume that they know more than they do. And that's going to sound like I'm also doing the same thing. But I assume that there are a million things that I don't know, which is why the ideas I have often don't end up coming to fruition. I'm like, hey, let's rock this, let's rock that. They don't come to fruition because there are things I don't know that Slot does know. You know, so I'm not telling... How do I put it? Like, I'm not saying that the people that have a bunch of ideas online should stop having ideas. Because, again, like I said before, I love it when people posit ideas and say, hey, we could rock this system, we could rock that system. Because look, I get to analyze it, I get to have a look, and I get to like talk about it. I love that about football. I love talking about football. But when you say this is what's going to save Liverpool, this is what's going to make us play well, that is the point where you low-key have to sit back and say, look, I don't know that much. Because you don't know that that's the case. You don't know that 4-1-2-1-2 is the answer, because you don't know if the downsides of it are actually like you're gonna see them every week. You don't know if the players are good enough to mitigate those downsides. You don't know if Salah's just going through the worst 10-game period of his life, and that next week this 4-3-3 is going to look insane because he's going to score a hat trick. You know, you're not watching it. It could be the case that in training, Mo Salah is quite literally the best player every week. So if that's the case, Slot has to play him, bro. All he can see is Mo Salah in training. Like, you're gonna drop the guy as the best in training every week. So like, there are things that we don't know, and we're making these assertions, and we have these ideas that at the end of the day, I think we ought to like just put to the side and leave them in the social space. Leave them on Instagram or Twitter or YouTube comments. Don't come out and say, hey, look, Slot, you're terrible, you need to leave, this system would save your job. Bro, you don't know that. You don't know that that's true. So look, what I will say is the Man United game, I enjoyed it thoroughly as a football fan. And the commentator did say at the end of the game, as a neutral, just a fantastic game, just an incredible game. And I completely agree. But even as a Liverpool fan, I really, really enjoyed it. Not just for the entertainment, but because we look so much better than we did 2 weeks ago. A lot of the things I complained about, we look way better, right? A lot of the things that I showed you, for those of you who can see the screen, those are things that weren't happening last week. Those are things that I didn't think were going to happen until like the new year. So, look, I completely understand why I could even catch some flack, not just from football fans in general for some of the things I've said, but from Liverpool fans, because as a Liverpool fan myself, I'm out here saying, look, I'm pretty happy with that result. A game that we lost against our biggest rivals in the entire world. I'm saying I'm pretty happy with the performance. Now that can catch me some flack, some serious flack, and I completely understand that. But this is the kind of performance that you build on, and against Brentford, it's a 2-1 win. And then the next game is a 2-0 win. And the next game is 4-1. And you see, like, that's the kind of performance you can build on. United are not really going to build on this performance. Just to, like, give some, like, to give some mirroring, to give some opposite emphasis or example, I guess. United, there's not much that they can take from that game that's like, okay, we're definitely going to build on this performance and we're going to improve on it for next week. If United improve on that performance from yesterday by 5%, they very well could lose 3-0. Because the performance was so bad that a 5% improvement would actually still be pretty bad. You know? Like the thing that I spoke about with the issues between the gaps between their midfield, their defense, their wing backs, and their forwards, that's a real problem. That's that's a terribly structural problem to have. It's not like okay, Bruno is just having a bad game, Casemiro is having a bad game, the wing backs are just not engaged. This is a problem I've seen with United since last year. And it's persistent, and it's why they can never grab a hold. Whenever you see Man United grab a hold of a game and like have 70% possession, bro, it doesn't happen because these are structural problems. The same problems Liverpool had just 2 weeks ago. Somehow it seems that we've solved a lot of them to an extent in 2 weeks. United haven't solved them for over a year. So, you know what I'm saying? Like, please, guys, just let's relax a little bit as Liverpool fans, and don't kill me for saying I didn't hate that performance. But that is all I've got for you guys. I think I'll probably get even further into these formational things that Liverpool fans are getting into. I'll probably talk a little bit more about that on my YouTube channel, just so that I can, streamline it. Just because I assume some people won't listen to the entirety of this. But if you did, I really appreciate it. Like I said, I love talking about football, so I would love to hear from you guys and what you think and any ideas you have for things I should maybe analyze or even just questions you have. I could just answer a bunch of questions. But yeah, I'll say it again. I enjoyed the game. Upset about the result, sure, but excited about what that means for the future. So for now, I'm out. I hope you guys enjoyed, and yeah, please tune into the next one. Peace.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Reasons Podcast. Make sure to tune into the next episode.